Yep, that's me, beating an NSX brake caliper like it owes me money because I wasn't going to let a cracked rotor get between me and more sessions on Spa-Francorchamps. No, a mallet isn't SOP for this job, and sadly this wasn't the end of our brake woes. But first, let's get you up to speed. If you're just now joining us, we shipped our Acura NSX to Europe, picked it up in Germany, drove over to France, enjoyed an amazing NSX Club event centered on Le Mans Classic. We then backtracked east into Belgium, where in the last video we turned some laps at the legendary Spa-Francorchamps circuit. There's a link in the description to the whole Europe playlist, but for now, we'll pick you up for what was planned as a chill week in the town of Spa. It's worth a mention here that the track, called Spa for short, is actually located in the town of Francorchamps, a short drive south of Spa proper, hence the full name of the track. We'll get to the nuts and bolts of planning your own trip in a later video, but it felt topical since Liz and I stayed up the road in the larger Spa rather than right next door in the smaller Francorchamps to have a little better dining and shopping selection within walking distance and stay out of the thick of the GP weekend prep closer to the track. As we take a tour of Spa, the town, I'll kick things off with a little vacation planning real talk here. I've heard it's a millennial thing, but at least when we start looking at going to new to us countries, we end up with some laundry list of cool stuff to do or places to see. Ooh, we're going to Belgium, obviously Spa, but we've heard good things about Bruges, Ghent, the Ardennes Forest region. Oh, and there's also Zolder that could be a target of opportunity. And suddenly you've got a spreadsheet, a Trello board, KPIs, and deliverables. Relaxation starts to become an occupation. We've made this mistake before, so we're self-aware enough to temper our enthusiasm this time. Plan A was just to hit Bruges or Ghent on the way in from France, but otherwise set up shop in Spa and then take day trips when we felt like it to the surrounding area. However, after the Norway debacle and then having to flail around a bunch in the course of picking up the car, fixing a couple of unforeseen issues, and getting to the headline event in Le Mans, we called an audible to pare back plans and just see what there was to do around Spa, with maybe one day trip, but otherwise taking a vacation from our vacation. That plan survived until, on the way back from the track day to our rental apartment, it became apparent that another brake rotor had cracked after the last session. As I nursed the car the half hour back into town, my fingers were crossed and Hail Marys were uttered in prayers that it was a front rotor. It was not. I had been prudent enough to bring spare rotors, but I only brought one front and one rear for packing efficiency. Rotors typically last me 3 to 5 two-day weekends in the US, and the rotors we started on had only seen one event. Cracking a rotor happens, but cracking two on the same day in warmish conditions was something new, and cracking both rears was really pretty bizarre. Yes, they're thinner than the fronts, sure, but the fronts should be doing most of the work. Now, if this happens back home as we're traveling around the US, it's no cause for alarm. Between Parts Chains, Amazon, Summit Racing, Rock Auto, etc., we could get some kind of NSX brake rotor delivered anywhere within 2 days tops. Not so much in Belgium. I did explore the online and drop shipping and Parts Chains ecosystems there, but I really didn't know where to start looking. I don't speak any French, and the sites were mostly unintelligible to me. My usual European go-to, Christian Mittendorfer, was on holiday in the US by this point, and while we weren't worried about getting the car back home as that was still weeks away, Liz and I did have one more important date we were trying to hit, one that would require functional brakes. So let me introduce myself again. I'm Richard, and I struggle with feeling guilty for asking for help with damn near anything. But this was important for more than just myself, so I made some posts, and Liz sent some text to some of our old and new European owner friends, and eventually got connected with the hero of this story, Bart Tease from near Antwerp. He pulled a pair of rotors off of a long-term Project NSX of his, and then put half his normal yearly allotment of miles on his pristine S2000 in one weekend, driving the few hours down to Spa to deliver them. The NSX community remains undefeated, and we managed to convince Bart and his son to stick around for lunch, so they at least left with full stomachs and some gas money. I've since also sent him some replacement rotors via Christian, but thanks to him going out of his way, I was able to leverage the small garage that we'd secured with our vacation rental to change this second casualty, with now one more rotor in reserve just in case. Like the right rear, the left rear caliper also required some percussive persuasion to let go of what was again a fairly lightly used brake rotor, barely any thickness loss, no lip around the edge, etc., that might normally lead to this kind of struggle. Something that would warrant a deeper dive in the future, but my suspicion was that something was causing the piston to not retract as normal, which was leading to an undiscernible in normal driving but existent amount of drag. That was then causing the excess heat that led to both the cracking as well as the difficulty in removal. Once again, thanks to Bart for the generosity with his time, and thanks to Renee for putting us in touch. Hopefully the next video will illustrate the importance of your kindness. With yet another hurdle cleared though, Liz and I actually managed to relax a little bit and enjoy the rest of our time in Spa. It's a neat town. Generally pretty, with maybe not as much to do as in some more traditional European tourist towns. There is a literal spa overlooking the town if that's your speed. There was a historic casino downtown, and it probably punches above its size for dining options. There was a Michelin star restaurant within walking distance of our rental, and then anything from dive bars, bistros, cafes, pizzerias, bakeries, creperies, friteries, and so on, available around town, and generally it was fairly walkable. The weather could be a little bit changeable at times, but we generally lucked out in our time there with only a couple of days of rain that we had to pull back out our Norwegian umbrellas to deal with. It seemed like there was always something going on, as confirmed by some of the local shop owners with whom we chatted. We arrived just after the Spa 6-hour race and a local holiday celebration, and then we left just before a music festival that would be followed a week later by the F1 race, and this trend has seemed to continue for most of the summer. So depending on how lively you'd like your visit to Spa to be, it's worth looking at the calendar before you go. Digressing some from our interlude of activity though, we'll leave things here with a little teaser of the one-day trip that we did get out for thanks to our friends. And with that, we'll see you in the next video, if not at the track.